Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plat. Purplatypus is the name and more Unicorn Overlord. Really quick before we jump into the video, boom! Just want to give a quick shout out to my supporters and members. If you're interested in supporting the Plat, you guys know what to do. There's a button down there. You hit the button, you do the thing, you get a shout out, you get some fancy color on your comments so I see it easier. And also in the Discord, you can get like a roll. That's less cool, but it's still cool. It's cool. It's worth it. Anyway, we're going to jump into this video here. I'm going to tell you about the 5 units that I think are worth, basically my 5 favorite unit types. I think that these are going to be really, really good in the early game. Now, again, this is going to be kind of speculation. All right. I don't know how the game is going to level into the mid game and to the late game, but for the early game, I'm going to go over all the things that I've unlocked so far in the demo and which ones I think you should be using. Now, in the very, very early game, as in like the first 5-6 stages, as soon as you get the Thief Travis, I highly recommend you start using this Thief. The Thief in this game is a frontline unit, and they just make it so your team takes no damage at all, because everything is going to get thrown into this guy. He's going to evade the attack. And then sometimes it's actually really cool. It does it smart. So he has a passive point to evade. But if they attack him and they naturally miss, he won't use the passive to evade. He won't use the passive to evade unless he would have been hit, and then he will use the passive. So he just has a naturally high evasion. So if they attack him twice and they miss twice, that's fine. And then the third attack would hit him, but then he'll evade that one. So between being able to evade attacks and having a high evasion, and he can also steal the passive points of enemy characters. The only downside to the passive steal is it does not apply if they guard the first hit. So if you're going up someone like this with a 64% guard chance, you're unlikely to get an additional evade, basically. So you're going to want to be careful on the character if you're attacking into. Basically, there's a few counters. Really, if they have a lot of characters on their team and they'll easily be able to hit you, then going up against something with a high guard can be rough. And going up against archers could be very rough because they have guaranteed hits. Other thieves are not like a counter, but they're more of a pseudo counter because they attack twice. So they have 2 chances, right? To basically, they'll eat up the evade. But still, like, I can't tell you, when I went from trying to tank things by taking damage and then healing to just evade tanking and doubling the damage by, instead of having a healer, now I'm just dealing damage, it just made so many of these fights way easier, and I heavily relied on Travis, and I'm still going to continue relying on Travis, but it's not all-encompassing for sure, because he does have counters. Once they introduce him, you got to have some diversity. But they're also a good attacker when that's gone. All right. Unit number 2 is actually going to be right here. And this is not specifically about the unit as much as it is about the type of unit. Because you could go recruit more of these. And I don't think there doesn't seem to be a distinct reason why Clive is better than the generic one that I got. And in a sense, I think the generic one I got could just be better because you get to alter their growth stats basically. But the Knight. Now, the Knight has, I think this is going to be better. Like, this is like the best unit early in the game. And then later, I think it will still be good. Probably one of the better units, but I think it will start to fall off. And that's mostly because they have a passive here that they deal double physical damage to infantry. Now, if we look at what's infantry, there's infantry, cavalry, and flying from what I could see. Infantry, cavalry, infantry, flying. Cavalry. But like most unit types are infantry. You know, Bruno, the cleric, the warrior, hunter, housecarl, wizard, soldier, the lords, the hoplites. These are all the fighters. These are all infantry, and he does double damage to all infantry. So far, all the tanks are infantry. So they're not going to be against other cavalry. They're not going to be great against flying units. In fact, flying units are what eat cavalry. But there's a lot of infantry, and dealing double damage means this unit is just like a freaking, it is a gun. It is a gun here. Like my guy has, this guy here has 39 attack, which is already more than anyone else on my team. I'm being honest here. 39 is kind of nuts. But he also has a pretty high crit chance now. And he also has a really good, basically, when he does 30, it's basically double that, right? It's almost 80 attack. But also, what's really, really good about this unit, in addition to dealing double damage, is Assaulting Lance is if it attacks and it kills, you get to attack again. So if they have a bunch of infantry, especially if they're using like soldiers and fighters, suddenly you're going to be able to just smack them and kill them in one shot, get your action back, smack them, kill them, get your action back, smack them, kill them. You could actually obliterate the whole team easily. And cavalry gets better the more cavalry you have, because they can, you could basically, every time a cavalry goes, they can give all the other cavalry in the row plus 20% attack, and they could stack it. So you can get up to, 3 stacks on the third guy that goes. So it's very, very cool. They work well with each other. They even have the ability to do a piercing attack that stuns. I think this is good, but situational. I think the ability to kill, go again, kill, go again, kill, and even their Valor skill, they do on the field damage that does 1.5 damage if the leader is infantry, and this does damage to everything in the thing. So it's just absolutely a nuts unit and been incredibly good. So my next favorite unit here is actually the mages. The mages, I mean, I'm sure there'll be more diversity as the game goes on, but right now, early game, you can't replace that magic damage. You just can't. But they're not just like a magic, Rolf. They're not just like a magic hunter, basically. They have this really, really cool ability. It's, to be fair, it's on the staff, but when I recruited this guy, I got this staff. It's called Fire Burst, and it just does, at the end of combat, it basically does the House Jarl thing where it attacks, but this attacks everybody if the target is burning. And luckily, Fireball, boom, inflicts burn. Fireball is actually really good too, right? It's a hit count 3 with a magic potency of 40. So it's actually 120 overall. So very, very it's powerful. It's mostly because so it does 180 magic potency. That's good. He has a ranged attack, so he could support people when he's not next to them. That's really good. On top of, he also has the ability to inflict burn. Burn is a stacking debuff that deals damage on when an enemy is about to take their action before they take it, so it could just kill them there for extra damage. Then at the end of combat, if the burning target is still alive, you get to just use this, and it does a big AoE on everybody. So it's been absolutely insane for dealing damage. Like absolutely a magic powerhouse. Like Clive is like the physical, the knight is like the physical one, although it's more single target, kill, kill, kill. This is more like blow them all up at the same time, because that fire burst has been insane, and that's not inherent to the class. I don't want to give too much to the weapons specifically, but still, they have the range attacks. They could set things on fire, and even honestly built in magic counter. After an enemy attacks with an active skill, you counter attack. This is really good if you're going up against things like the enemy soldiers, where they're going to pierce, where they could just hit this guy, but maybe not for an insane amount, because he doesn't have that good a physical defense. But if they hit him for like just kind of poke him a little bit, then he'll counterattack for a ton. Or if you have a second magic user, you can have 2 with magic pursuit. One uses a magic attack, this one follows up with magic pursuit, then he uses a magic attack, the other one follows up with magic pursuit. Suddenly you're just nuking things into the ground. So very, very good. So a third unit here, or sorry, that was the third unit. 1, 2, 3. I mean, we could keep going, but I think one of the most important ones here is the fighter. Now, I think the fighter I thought the fighter was kind of dog shit when I started the game because the Lord was so good. And I basically discovered while playing, they got better and better the longer my playthrough has gone on. And I suspect it's going to keep going. Not mostly, but a large part to this leader effect. Resist ranged assists. Take less damage from ranged assists. So basically, like, I've done so many fights where they're just enemies in towers, a bunch of archers all around, and every time you fight one of them, you're suddenly taking like 2 or 3 different ranged attacks before the fight even starts. Absolutely can obliterate your your back line. And then, even if you have a guy up front that could tank it all, this hits everybody. So your squishy back line is still going to be in trouble. And this just it doesn't turn it off, but it greatly reduces it. And also then if you have a vulnerable backline, like let's say you have a cleric, you have your Mage here, and they're using like someone like Rolf who could just like, it's a ranged attack that could just poke right into the back line, guaranteed to hit. He has arrow cover, and he just jumps in the way. He says, boink, you take 0 damage. That attack was wasted. So you get to nullify their action with your passive skill. That is pretty darn huge. Actions in general are better than passive skills, I would say. So being able to just get rid of their action for your passive in the right setup is really good. And then later you get shield bash. It's okay. I think both their attacks are kind of eh. This one especially, warding slash. Yeah, you could attack an enemy and you get 20% physical defense. Yippee. I think if you get multiple actions and the combat round starts lasting longer, this is going to get better because it's a lot of defense to get, but they always fucking go last, man. Their initiative is like 14. What are these? 19, 27, 17. Yeah, he goes last. Okay, 18, 19, 15. You know, okay, he goes 8. So the 2 other tanky guys do. So he's fast for a tank, but like almost anyone just goes before him. So it's like, he never gets any fucking use out of that. I don't really like this ability, and I found him to be squishier than the other tanks because he's not a full-on tank. Like the and his magic defense is a little bit better, but he's not a hoplite where he just eats all the physical for days. He can't quite do that, even though he does do a good job. But the fact that he doesn't have a big shield means that he just takes more damage in general, and he doesn't have the ability to block as consistently or for as much damage. But he's specifically really good against archers in ranged units. And I found just even just reducing the, I want him as a leader in all my parties, because sometimes we got to do combat under enemy fire. This is who I want to be the one doing it. All right, now I'm going to give an honorable mention to Elaine here, as I think Lord is kind of insane, but everyone's going to play. It's the main character so far of the game, right? Everyone, I think, is going to level up this character and just have a good time doing it, right? Like, it's kind of more whatever, in my opinion. And here's the thing. I could easily pick all these characters. I think they all have very, very good things that they could do. And they all have a lot of valid, they're all tools, right? And they all have specific things you want to use them for. But here, I actually kind of really like, I mean, I can't go without Chloe, if I'm being honest here, the soldier, which is kind of a weird idea because soldiers are usually pretty weak. And this character, what I think that they're really good at is that they don't necessarily super excel at anything, but they're pretty darn good at a lot of things, and they easily fit into team comps. So, perfect example, they fit very well with any of the tanks. You know, anyone that's going to be on the front, not Travis, basically, but anyone else, because she has, at the end of combat, she's just going to heal them. It heals them a pretty large amount, too, 25% of their HP. So it works really good with, if Bruno self-heals, so you don't necessarily need it, but if he is going to end the fight with damage still, then you could heal him again. But characters like Hodrick is really, really good. Even Lex or Joseph, they're both pretty good, where they have high HPs, but also they're not necessarily healing themselves. Chloe just heals them at the end of combat, easy peasy. So sustained combats, and one, it's just more likely to have you win the combat, because if they don't die, 25% heal is a pretty large amount. So it's more likely to make the numbers, even if you don't kill each other, the numbers are going to be in your favor, so you'll knock them back and get first strike. And then honestly, long thrust is good. It's good against cavalry, which is already kind of rough, because you know your infantry units are already kind of vulnerable to cavalry. So this getting an extra 50 potency against cavalry with pretty good damage, and it can hit 2 units at the same time because it's a piercing attack. So it's a piercing attack that not only doesn't give up on power for that double hit, it actually gets additional power in a certain situation against cavalry, which is pretty darn good. And then also later on at level 10, they get javelin, so they get the ability to hit flying targets. It counts as range, so they're not, I don't think this is going to have a negative hit chance against, because I think the way flying works, let's just take a look. Double dodge rate versus grounded melee. So it might still have a low chance to hit. I don't know, because it's ranged, it implies to me that they won't be able to just dodge this easily, but plus 50% potency, so good against cavalry, decent at least against flying, has a good ability to heal, and on top of that, also grants 100% crit rate for your ally's next attack, so you can guarantee a crit. I don't know if this guarantees a hit, but it definitely guarantees. So, but if it hits, it guarantees a crit. But if this is True Strike and extra damage in one, that's kind of insane. But of course, they're all just, everything is good, but they're not dealing quite as much damage as the other characters. They're not healing as much as the cleric, but they just kind of fit. They do everything you want in one unit, and I feel like they're kind of a good flex spot if you're gonna have, if you don't want to go full healer, you don't want to give up on damage, but you still need some sort of sustain because your characters are taking chip damage over time. I think this character is going to do freaking wonderful for you. I don't think she could heal herself, though, actually. Am I wrong about that? At the end of battle, restore 25% HP to an ally. Okay, so you could actually choose the condition, also make it be like, oh, here you go. You could go here to HP, lowest HP, not percent. Let's just do lowest. Yeah, lowest HP percent. How about that? Now they're going to first aid against the lowest HP percent. So yeah, these are the 5 characters that I think are going to be the most powerful in the early game. And probably into the mid game, especially I think Clive into the mid game, or, you know, your knights into the mid game are going to be insane. I think the fighter is going to get better and better as I just basically is like the stages get more difficult with more support fire. I think that this character is going to be pretty much irreplaceable. And then, you know, I already made the case for all of them, but they all seem very powerful in general. Like, I don't want to you know, say like, oh, Bruno's not good, Rolf's not good. You need all these units. You need them all in specific situations. But these are the ones that I thought I just wanted to highlight here in the first video. I think I'm going to start working on some build videos, like actually putting teams together. Like, what is a good unit formation? I'll probably start with a 3-man unit formation because that's going to be what you use for most of your demo time. You could probably get up to 4. You could probably, you know, but you get up to 3 pretty easily, pretty early. Like, it's one of the first things you do after you get off the tutorial island. So we'll take a look at which 3 units are really, really good together and why. Anyway, much love. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I'll see you all on the flip-flops. Peace.